So good morning, everybody. I am calling this meeting of the Public Safety Communications Task Force to order. It's 11:16 on September 4th, 2024, and I'm Barbara Neal. As a reminder, the meeting's being recorded and the recording will be posted to the task force webpage following the meeting. So we'll start with a roll call of task force members. Please verbally acknowledge your presence when I call your name. Paul White.
Here.
Ron Kumitz.
Here.
Jim Mack.
Here.
Excellent. And I think we are not seeing Jen, Mike Dunges, or Michael Wright just yet. Mike Dunges says he may join late as well. Okay, also joining us today is Kelly Audette as our administrative support and our project management team from Televate, Rick and Dom.
Morning.
I see Rance Duffy and Phil Sisk are both here from Mission Critical. Good morning. And we have several members of the public with us as well. So I will call your name and give you an opportunity to introduce yourself and any affiliation you care to share. Senator Renner, good morning.
Morning, everyone. Irene Renner, serving on the Joint Tech Oversight Committee. Thanks for this opportunity.
Yeah, welcome. Kim Cheney. You're muted, Kim. Well, we're not hearing you.
I don't think he's speaking.
Oh, I'm sorry. Kim, did you want to introduce yourself?
Good morning. I'm having trouble with my headphones, so I
Okay.
just heard. I'm a member of the public, interested in what's going on here.
Okay, thank you. I see one guest with the name Advocate. Stephen, is that you? Okay, and one guest that says meeting guest. So is there any other members of the public on the line that would like to introduce themselves?
I'm on the phone, Steve Whitaker.
Morning, Stephen. Okay, all right. Moving on then to approval of the agenda. The agenda was distributed to task force members by email. It's also available on the webpage. Do task force members have any changes to the agenda? Okay, hearing nothing then, we will consider the agenda approved and move on to approval of the minutes from regular meeting number 32 on August 21st, 2024. Do task force members have any changes for these minutes? Great. Is there a motion to approve the minutes from August 21st?
Make a motion to approve the minutes.
I will second.
Okay, any discussion? All right, all in favor of approving the minutes from August 21st, raise your hand or indicate by saying aye. I see myself,
Aye.
Jim, Paul,
Aye.
Ron. Perfect. The minutes are approved. Okay, moving on then to a regional town hall update. So we have some big events coming up in the next couple weeks. This update, I think, will kind of be a tag team between me and Dom probably and Rance, if you're able. I was hoping maybe you could share some of the registration information in a minute, those numbers. Sorry, I didn't reach out to you in advance, but so let's talk about the dates of the upcoming regional town halls. As a reminder, these are for gathering input from stakeholders in the emergency responder community, emergency communications, and state and local officials communities. So there will be 4 regional town halls. The first is September 11th, so next Wednesday in Swanton from 5 to 7 p.m. The very next day, we'll have one at the Fire Academy from noon to 2, the Fire Academy in Pittsford. On the following week, on the 17th, we'll be at NVRH, the hospital at St. Johnsbury, from 8 to 10 a.m. And on the 19th, we'll be down in Springfield for an evening session from 5 to 7 p.m. So as I mentioned, the focus group here is the emergency responder community and state and local officials and communications personnel. We can have, for each regional town hall, we can have up to 3 task force members in attendance. So what I would like to do is reach out to everyone after the meeting to understand what your availability is, and then I can work through with Jen Morrison and or Paul White to make sure we've got the appropriate number of people going to each of the meetings. So perhaps you can watch for that email from either myself or Callie if she's able to help me out with that. So we do want to stress that it's important to be clear with everyone at these meetings that there's no predetermined outcome here and that their input is vitally important. So we had a meeting yesterday with Rance and the Mission Critical team to kind of dig into the content of the regional town halls. We're going to start with some introductory comments by a task force member that is present. This will be a scripted narrative, so to speak. So your basic introductions of the task force members in attendance, the teams from Televate and Mission Critical, housekeeping items, where are the emergency exits, where are the restrooms, that type of thing. And then just a high level overview of what it is the task force is charged with doing. Then there will be project updates from Dom at Televate. And then we will move on to the sort of the guts of the program, which is this facilitated conversation with the stakeholders that will be managed by facilitators from Mission Critical. So I'm going to pause right here and say to Dom and perhaps Rance or Rick, what else do we have to share right now, or what did I miss on a kind of a high level overview of where we are with the regional town hall?
Well, I can show what the slides look like. I have a draft of that for the other task force members, if that would be helpful.
Yes.
So we are in the process of putting these together. So we've downloaded a state template for Vermont, and even had our public safety communication task force emblem developed there, which you see in the lower right-hand corner. And as Barb mentioned, we'll be going through introductions and kind of housekeeping items, a little bit of task force overview, an overview of the project and schedule. So we'll have introductory slides such as this one for Barb if she's doing this particular session, or that may be another task force member, depending on which session we're doing. I will be providing project update with an overview of what items we're currently pursuing, the general process, and then do a schedule update, and then turn it over to Mission Critical partners and their team, and we'll identify the specific team members that'll be facilitating each particular session. And they're putting a lot of their content right now into this format, but we'll essentially be reviewing the process, what key questions we have, and of course having hopefully the majority of the meeting will be discussion, and then indicate what the follow-up is. And the key questions will focus on high-level discussion, certainly initially, things such as what is working well today with the dispatch process, what is not working, and, what are some of the key priorities that stakeholders would like to see coming out of the process and out of any potential future dispatch system, and also potentially what deal breakers there might be that would have them hesitant to support a new future system. So that's essentially what we have at this point. That's in draft form, of course, but it's currently being updated with the specific content from mission critical partners and other items.
Okay, great. And Rance, you've been tracking the registrations that are coming in through the email that was sent out. How are we looking for each of the town halls?
As of yesterday, this is just a yesterday polling that we pulled from our side of it. And I'll go through all 4 of the locations. So Swanton, we currently have registered 21. The Fire Academy 25. The Northeastern region will be 22, and Springfield 13. Now that was as of yesterday. I'm sure there'll still be some more coming in on that part of it. And on the slide deck, Dom hit all that. Our part is just to emphasize, hey, come with an open mind, and there's going to be questions, and we need the input. The only way that drives this thing forward is the input that we get from all of the responders to put that together. And so the input's going to be, we will have a whiteboard option. And to emphasize again, this will be we'll have people physically in presence, but we'll also have it available virtually, which was also on the invitation. So it'll go out whether they're actually physically there and or virtually. So there will be some whiteboarding where we'll be taking some information and putting it on a whiteboard so you can see that as we're having discussion live. There may be even we're still kind of toying around with, a type of a polling or, gathering information to be able to see, what kind of responses we get from people, especially if they're not physically there. That'll help us be able to pull their information into that. And then just going through some questions to be able to prompt some conversation so we can get us an idea about what everybody's feeling out there for the entire state when we get done.
Excellent. That sounds good. So Paul, go ahead.
Yeah, Rance, thank you for those registration numbers. I'm just curious, that's the total number registered for each meeting, I assume. So we don't know how many of those might be in person, how many might be virtual.
Exactly. We did on the invitation, if you remember seeing that, I'm pretty sure,
Right.
Paul, you got to see that. We do have the option where I didn't ask that yesterday just because we were trying to get a quick, number. So
Sure.
I cannot tell you at this point, say Swanton 21. I don't know if like half that is going to be physically there and or virtual.
Okay.
We do have that information. I just didn't have it available today.
Okay.
So we could provide that later.
Okay, thank you.
Excellent. Okay. Any questions or comments from task force members on Regional Town Hall? Okay. Rick had a good idea yesterday when we met about sort of encouraging people to attend these sessions when they're in their area or remotely at any of them. So I would like to encourage all of the task force members to personally call or reach out to the people, organizations within your constituent group to encourage them to attend one of these regional town halls. So I will be calling several board members that represent police, fire, and EMS to make sure that they are aware. And can also I'll work with Jen to make sure that our key legislators that have been involved in this discussion are also aware. They should be because of the invitations and all, but I think a phone call might be good. So if you could think about the people and organizations that you represent and make the appropriate phone calls, that would be great. Rick or Dom or Rance, anything more on regional town halls?
Nothing on my end.
Okay.
Yep, I think we're good.
Barb, do you want to mention the format and the event that we have a have sufficient number of task force board members there? Do we need to make it a formal meeting or?
Well, that's why we were working to keep the task force membership. We want to focus on getting the input from the stakeholders in an informal, I would say, setting. If we have no more than 3 task force members, then we do not have a quorum and we do not have to kind of follow the public meeting format, so to speak. So that I think is how we will coordinate, making sure we have 3 or fewer task force members in attendance. Is that what you're getting at, Rick?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. And Kim, we're going to go to public comment in just a minute, so I'll save your question, please, for that. I see Michael Wright has joined us. Is there anything else from task force members or Televate or Mission Critical on the regional town halls that we need to discuss? Okay. All right, then. Moving on to public comment. Let's start with Kim Cheney. You have your hand up. Go ahead.
Yes. Is the public invited to these meetings?
The public is invited. The comments are going to be focused on, or the input is going to be focused on hearing things from the stakeholder communities that I mentioned in the beginning, the emergency responders, emergency communications, state and local officials. We will have, though they're not on the calendar yet, correct me if I'm wrong, Dom or Rance, we will have listening sessions scheduled later that are more designed for the general public, Kim. And
can you tune in virtually to watch this? I tried to register. I haven't heard from anybody, but am I going to be given a link to listen in on the St. Johnsbury meeting?
Rance, how does that work, the mechanics of that?
Right, understand. The registration, it's all being collected right now. We will send out, it'll likely be like a mass email. You'll see the link come to whichever one you registered for. You'll get that link in an email, that information has not come out yet. So that's why you haven't seen it yet.
Great.
But I should be able to listen into any number of these if I wanted to.
You can listen to all of them if you want to, sure.
Correct.
Well, maybe I will. Thank you.
Okay, great. Anything else, Kim?
No, although I'm interested if you saw the article about the tower that I sent to you, Barb, and I think Rick Berg. It's fascinating way to fund, build a tower big enough to handle cell as well as radio. And was shot down recently in Enosburg, but because the tower was too big, but it would be a wonderful thing to explore.
To answer your question, I did see it come in. I have not read the article, so I will do that.
Well, Rick,
Okay.
Did you get a look at it?
Yeah, Kim, I did read it. It's we actually Televate knows some companies that are willing to build towers at their nickel and provide access to the communities. But certainly, the challenge is whether or not those towers and the location and the height, as it was indicated in that article, are going to be accepted by the local community. And if the investment, if they don't reach a certain height, the towers, because of the cost of building and maintaining them, may not meet the revenue requirements to build it. But yeah, it's a good model, and the more we can the more we can leverage opportunities like that would be to certainly everyone's benefit. And we had discussed in the past, FirstNet was going to also provide access to public safety to all their new towers. That was part of the original discussion with FirstNet on the broadband. So wherever they're building towers, public safety should have access. I'm pretty sure that's how the government finalized their agreement with them.
Sounds like something to add to the legislative session to see if we can do this, because I'd hate to pass up that opportunity to have some funding for local, if I can be just normal radio information. It'd be a great way to get some money to do what we're all talking about.
Okay. Thank you, Kim. I'm going to move on. Thank you for your input. I will take a look at the article. I'm going to move on so everybody has an opportunity here during our public comment session. Senator Renner, go ahead.
Thank you. My comment has to do with those town halls that are upcoming. I could think of people who have more expertise than the general public, such as ham radio operators, members of public works departments who might not have a stakeholder designation according to the email that I received. So I would urge you to open it up more to people rather than less. I'm really concerned we're going to miss some good input from people who do have knowledge in this area more than, say, the average person on the street. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Anyone else? Stephen, would you like to make a comment?
Yeah, I hear, I would like to hear more discussion about that topic just raised by Senator Renner. Kim Cheney has always been an advocate for focusing on the governance, but it seems like these workshops were almost designed to keep me from speaking and informing the folks of all the stuff that this task force refuses to deal with, which is regional governance, which is near-term interoperability and failover, because we are at risk right now, big time. And we're proceeding along on a, concept of options for a statewide design, some, indefinite budget in the future, rather than work with what we've got and figure out how to pair these PSAPs to each other and have full functioning CAD and records management interoperable among them. And to have raised these issues, and then there's the confidentiality of the information, there's no way you'll prevail on trying to keep Central Vermont's information private because it's already been made public, but the fallacy of FirstNet being our only option when most first responders don't subscribe to FirstNet, nor does FirstNet have the coverage that they claimed they would build for us, is really something that these are things that y'all should be talking about. And I don't know why it's Paul, I dare say it's worse than the 911 board. I counted on you to keep this task force, broad and wide and engaged. Y'all are supposed to have direct oversight of the congressionally directed spending, and you seem to be asleep at that switch. You can't perpetuate this fallacy that, $9 million is going to be spent on a system that we don't have a design for that's going to support regional dispatch. And that's what the money was appropriated for. So as far as I can tell from my record request, Mission Critical has yet to begin asking for the 911 tower data so that they could proceed with the LTE. The economics of integrated LTE LMR design have not been discussed or prioritized. I mean, y'all are going to be a real sitting duck. I've heard from a key legislator that this thing continues to be off the rails. And, to be gathering 20 people and keeping stakeholders like myself from speaking is not the way to get this thing back on track. So, if you can hear I'm frustrated, it's because I don't think y'all are doing your job.
Okay, thank you, Stephen. Kim, your hand's up again, I think.
Oh, wasn't intended to, sorry.
Okay, okay, just wanted to make sure. Is there anybody else on the line from the public who would like to make a comment? Okay, and when we get to new business, I may expand a little bit on some initial thoughts about this expanding the invitations, but I'm going to hold it for new business. So let's go on to project updates, and I will hand it over to Dom for the project management update.
All right, thank you, Barb, and good morning, everyone. As we talked the last meeting, we had completed our initial round of dispatch center visits. We were able to visit 30 out of the 38 dispatch centers, and we are now in the process of analyzing the data that we received from those visits, as well as the completed questionnaires. So that is ongoing. We do have 8 more dispatch centers that we need to visit, and MCP has been working to schedule those. Those will be scheduled in at the same time frame as the town halls. I'll show my schedule now. Sorry about that. So here's where we are at the end of August. We are performing analysis, as I mentioned, of the data we received, and the primary other primary activity, as you've heard at the first part of this meeting, is planning the town halls. I did add a line item for the town halls to the schedule that hadn't previously been there, so that is there currently. And as Barb mentioned, we have the 4 town halls scheduled over the next 2-week period. And in that same 2-week period, Mission Critical Partners will complete their dispatch center visits, and then we will complete the analysis based on that additional data. So that is currently where we are. Over the next couple of weeks, we're going to do the town halls and consolidate that information and include that in our analysis, and also utilize that towards the development of the inventory and assessment. One other item there, Mission Critical Partners has a team focused on the wireless data gathering and wireless inventory, and they are continuing to compile that data. They've analyzed existing information from current public safety systems, both types of systems, site locations, and they are utilizing the FCC database to gather further information and accumulate all of that so they can identify specific gap areas. We have also talked with some particular stakeholders throughout the state, in particular the town of Hardwick, for example, to identify their challenges, and they have gap areas that they're dealing with. They happen to be located in a valley, and it's difficult to cover even their relatively small town. But they're looking at options currently as to how to do that. So that's primarily where we are. We look forward to the town halls over the next couple of weeks, and then we'll update from there.
Okay, that sounds good. Do task force members have any questions for Dom? Okay, let's go then to an update from Rance at Mission Critical.
Dom actually went over most everything. We're kind of overlapping on those things right now, but we have started some analysis. However, can't get through all of it until we obviously finish up some of these on-site visits, and then after the on-site visit, we'll have more of our team members actually getting into more of the analysis to be able to try to start developing pieces of the report and recommendations and things like that. So I just want to emphasize timelines to kind of think about. We're kind of doing a light analysis right now, that we'll get more into it a little bit after that. And to reiterate on the wireless side of it, they are looking at all the radio communications, but I do want to add they are also looking at your cellular propagation as well, whether it be FirstNet, Verizon, T-Mobile, whoever all the service providers are. So that is also another component of the wireless that I want to make sure to emphasize that they're looking at both sides of the. Sometimes that's looked at as both sides of the house. So you have the radio communication side, you also have the cell phone side, which are very much can be very integrated now with public safety communications. So that's the only update I have. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you. Questions for Rance from task force members? I have one question. It's either for Rance or Dom, and I should know the answer to this, but I don't. Are the community listening sessions scheduled, or are we still working on that?
They are not scheduled.
They-
They
We're still working on that.
Yeah, still working on that. Yeah, I forgot, and I'm glad you brought that back, Barbara. I wanted to clarify. Yes, they are not scheduled at this point. We do need to get back with with the task force and Dom and Televate to kind of. We're going to figure out what our stance is going to be on that and when best to hold those. So yes,
Okay.
they will be scheduled at some point.
Okay, great. And thanks for clarifying that. I should have known. Okay, so that's it for project updates. Let's move on to new business. I have an item, as I mentioned a minute ago. Does anybody else from the task force have any new business they want to bring up first? Okay. So I just want to address Senator Renner's and others' comments about expanding the audience, so to speak, to include more people rather than less. And these are just initial thoughts. The regional town halls have been geared towards all along the stakeholder group that includes the field responders, the emergency communications personnel, and the leadership at all of those entities, and also state and local government officials. The community and that group must be prioritized, ought to be, rightfully is prioritized in the regional town halls. We also have these community listening sessions, which will be added to the calendar soon. We'll get to work on that, which I think may be a better forum for stakeholders outside of that group that the town halls are geared towards. So when the invitations went out, I believe Jen sent out the bulk of them. I'm pretty sure it included in the subject line to distribute far and wide to folks that might be interested in these. So I would encourage people outside that core group that we mentioned earlier to think about attending the community listening sessions once we get them up on the board and or on the schedule, and know that that will be an opportunity for the broader audience to have input. So like I said, those are my initial thoughts. I think that we are doing our best to give multiple opportunities for input from stakeholders all across the board. And anyway, I'll open it up now to see if there's any comments from the task force or our partners.
Barbara,
Rance, yep, go ahead, Rance.
that, and Senator Renner, that's a perfect way. What she brought up was important, but Barbara, I also agree with you. You got to kind of split those parties up. We do have the primary core, I believe, as Barb used, that we need to focus in on exactly what the issues are that they see from your field responders, the people that directly interact with that system every day of their operational life, for example. And then there will be the secondary part of that, and there are still stakeholders that are important just as anybody else, but they're the external stakeholders where it would be the public that may have to make those phone calls, and hopefully they don't, and or any other agencies that might interact with them. But we kind of need to keep those in a separate conversation because there's many different needs. The needs from each of those groups are different from each other. And that's kind of why we're designing it around the way we did with the town halls that we're getting ready to have and the community listen sessions thereafter.
Thank you, Rance. Okay.
I'm gonna have to agree. I'd like to keep it focused on the responders and the communication staff and the local officials, local and state officials. That's who I really want to hear from right at this moment and how we're going to build this system out.
Okay, thank you, Jim. Paul,
And-
go ahead.
Yeah, I would just add that, Stephen had said earlier, it seemed like we were designing this intentionally to prevent him from speaking, and I just want to disagree with that. The goal here, anybody that wants to have a voice will have a voice. We just need to break it up into who we're hearing from when, and right now we're focusing on people who have not been attending these meetings every other week and had opportunities to voice their concerns over and over again. And I just don't want to,
Yeah.
these meetings are of limited time. We have a 2-hour block set aside for each of these town halls. And so we really can't spend it hearing the same comments repeated over and over again at each one of these town halls. We need to hear from the first responder community right now, and members of the public, of course, will be invited to speak at later listening sessions.
Okay, great. Anybody else? Okay. All right, then I guess we will continue or stay on course with what we've already come up with. And we will be sure to get the information about the community listening sessions out to everyone as soon as we've got that available. So there you go. No other new business question? Okay. Our next meeting date, of course, we have a lot of town halls in between, but the next regular meeting date is scheduled for Wednesday, September 18th. And if we're all set, I think we can have a motion to adjourn.
I will make that motion.
Thank you, Ron.
Seconded.
Thank you, Jim. All in favor of adjourning, raise your hand or indicate by saying aye.
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 Right, I see all hands and or voices are accounted for. We are adjourned until September 18th. Thank you all very much for your time this morning, and we'll be in touch with the final steps on the coordinating the town hall attendance. Thanks very
Thank you,
much.
Barb.
Aye.
Thank you.
everybody.
Bye.
Have a great day.
Very good.